Hi, my name is Julie Brigidi, and I am here to share a conversation with my husband, still, Stephan Brigidi. We thought we'd talk a little bit about our art journey together and apart, and just share some thoughts that you might enjoy. So, Stephan, how did your art journey begin?
Well, like most people, it began in school. I felt I was a little bit late in the game. I was an undergrad at Providence College, and disillusioned being a history major. The art department was founded while I was there, and it was an opportune time to take advantage of that. And at the same time, I found an old camera, 2.25 format, 620 film, and I started using it. And that was the beginning. 1970,
Uh-oh,
roughly.
that makes us sound pretty old.
Well, I've been at it for a while.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah, and from there, I was privileged too because it was a very small department and got a lot of attention along the way, and I thought I was learning quite a lot. I had the opportunity also there to go to Europe for a summer, and then when I finished school ultimately, 73. From there, I was able to go over to across town to Rhode Island School of Design, and I enrolled as actually a transfer student, uh, going from a BA to possibly getting a BFA. But I really took as much advantage as possible of the offerings there, and I was with a couple of giants, Harry Callahan, Aaron Siskin, and it was just an amazing time. So that was really the beginning, and I've never, in a sense, looked back. Uh, I'm coming off a kind of high just from yesterday, being able to shoot again. You know, and I shoot film. You know that.
Why haven't you been shooting?
Well, there are periods of time when a lot of work is done with new image making, but the pandemic certainly it imposed on all of us in small and large ways. The year 2020, when it really kind of arrived here on our shores in this state, it just brought a halt to everything. At the same time, I was involved, busy with refurbishing the studio, the new studio building, which we're in now, moving just one whole block south from where we had been for 20 years. And had a lot of activity around taking walls down, maybe putting a new wall up, whatever it took. And I had to move my dark room, which had been in place for a good long time. Yeah, my good old-fashioned analog dark room, which is just a few meters from here in another room.
So what did you do yesterday that made you get happy?
I photographed. It's funny. With wonderful people. Most of my photography, which I'd be happy to talk more about, my image making has been around working with people from the beginning. I mean, I've spent periods of time working non-people, non-social stuffs, in a sense. We can talk about that, but I was excited yesterday because I was working with some new arrivals, some immigrants that had come to this country, and it was a citizenship ceremony yesterday. And I met Yuba, and I met Abel. Abel was from Uganda. Uba was from Somalia. Got to chat with them a little bit and kind of follow what was going on. And it was just great to just feel that Hasselblad machine again around me. And to I came away with a thought driving away from the immigration center, saying, I was born to photograph, and it's been, with school and all, over 50 years. I haven't stopped. I'm not intending to stop.
I remember doing my first photographs when I was 12, I photographed some ducks, and I'm not sure things have changed much. I'm still photographing animals and little creatures and things like that amongst all of my commercial work that I've been doing over the years. I did not have formal training except to go to RISD night school to learn how to shoot digitally because I only had learned how to shoot with a film camera.
Hmm.
But I had a good teacher in Stephen, and I had some really good teachers at RISD, and it helped me with my education along the way.
Hmm. Yeah,
And
I remember that too. But you came in as a kind of a anonymous student in one of my classes at Rhode Island College, teaching basic photography.
mm-hmm,
Again, the darkroom,
mm-hmm.
and we didn't tell anyone that we were connected by marriage as well as other things.
Well, we didn't want to upset any of the other students. I think there was favoritism going on.
No, but it was a funny time.
Yeah.
But that was the beginning, and then technology has certainly impacted all of us.
Right.
You took to that very quickly.
Yep.
I went back to RISD too for a Photoshop class, so I could, and I spend a lot of time now scanning my black and white film. I think it's interesting because there's the wet dark room that has its the analog properties. Don't have the full inventory of papers and things that I so enjoyed in the early days, but taking it from there into the dry dark room, which is when the lights are on and I'm looking at monitors and working with printers. It's interesting to reinterpret a lot of
Mm-hmm.
the stuff done previously, and you learn about in some sense the limitations of the dark room. What I love too is you can take transparency or a black and white negative and you scan it and you're like, wow, I never knew there was detail in that shadow or detail in those highlights. The
But
computer sees it all.
but your preference is really to work in the darkroom. That's your
Well,
love, right?
I love the printmaking practice, and I still love working with film. And you know what? I have done certainly digital, over the last 10, 15 years, sporadically, almost reluctantly too, to be honest with you. But you know what I love about film? It's a slower, more contemplative process.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
With digital, it's like you just got a machine gun, rapid shooting, da 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 da. And that,
Which I love.
well, there's
I love digital. I
and
love
and
being on a
you can
computer.
quickly see, obviously, oh, let's delete that and let's try that again.
Yep.
With film, it's like, son of a bitch. I should have done this differently. And I've gone back, and over the years I've done, reshoots as possible. But when you're on, when you're traveling, you're on, particular location. You can't always do that, obviously. But I've had, a great life experience. That photography has kind of led the way, propelled for me, and we share that together.
Except that
Commercially,
I
fine
think
art.
we see really differently. I think we see what we photograph so differently. I see minute little objects, details, and you can see it in my work. I also am very spontaneous when I'm not doing commercial work. It's whatever pops up, whatever happens is kind of what I'm intrigued by. And you seem to plan.
Well, I do. I like the idea of projects,
Yep.
and a lot of strategizing goes in with that. I love the way you photograph because you see detail and intimacy in a way that I just admire. I look at things a bit more broadly. I used to do tableau-like sets involving models, props, and using sometimes an assistant and working. This is grad school, and even after that, when I was back in Rome and able to work pretty solidly for that Fulbright year period. Even then, it was like meeting a model and then talking about what was going to happen, and there's some discoveries along the way, but a lot of it was the kind of planning stage and the way of working that's helped me. So we obviously have those kinds of differences. I love too the years we've spent traveling together, and we walk the streets, and I'm photographing something entirely different than you. But then I also love, and I'm astounded sometimes when we're photographing the same thing, and the results are so
completely
drastic.
different.
Yeah. And
I love that.
it's like, oh, Julie's picture's better than mine. Yeah. And that's great. I must say I got some better ones than you too. But it's not a competition. It's never been a competition
No,
with
we've
us.
always helped each other, which has been really wonderful.
Yeah.
It's been a great way to run a studio. I think doing the commercial studio that we did for many, many years, 30, 35 years, you were still able to do your fine art. I don't think I really had much time for fine art in those days, with family and working full time. And I'm enjoying just being able to do what I want to do, which is writing, playing, drawing, doing a little bit of photography. I'm not sure where it's all going, but I'm having a really good time with it. What about you? Where do you see your work going?
Well, right now I'm doing things that I feel are very important because, as you know, I really care about social justice. So the work that started pre-pandemic in a project that was surrounding kind of the queer community, I was very concerned that LGBTQ plus folks were being very marginalized, and that I have always been an ally to that community. We have family, friends, and close people to us. So that kind of propelled me in a direction to work in a very interesting kind of collaborative way. It's one thing about making photographs. That's a real starting point for me. And in this project, which has become called Simply Human, and I want to, maybe elaborate a little bit more about that. I interact with the people I photograph, and they respond to me post picture making with, not always, sometimes in the same session, their words, their contribution comes often in the form of words. I've gotten poems. I've gotten a drawing or two.
Generally after the photographs are made?
Yeah, because it gives them an opportunity to kind of, think about what they choose to say. I did one session with a man named Manuel from Guatemala, and just a very, very straightforward portrait making. And he sat down and he wrote this beautiful thing in his own hand scrawl, and his grammar was, not perfect. And instead of taking the words and then working a font I just scanned his writing and worked it in with the photograph. And that's been the format, where I have an image, and I love the square. I've always been devoted to the square. I've altered that a little, but this is more consistent, working with that medium format. And the fonts are the text that the fonts then present can be arranged in different manners. And I like it too because there's nothing consistent, or I use the word cookie cutter.
What do you mean? What's not consistent?
Well, every photograph, every situation lends itself toward a new possibility. So I've used handwritten notes. I photographed this wonderful lesbian couple, and one of the women had handed me, a note with some of her words. And I don't know, but it occurred to me I should maybe cut it up and arrange it around the photograph, each side, top, bottom.
Do you think you'd like to show this work?
Yeah. Yeah, I've been at it for a while. As I said, I think a moment ago was 2020 was like washout.
Yeah.
But I resumed again. I had a lot of momentum going, through 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say too, I started with queer community. I've been working with immigrants, and I referred to yesterday being excited about photographing um, people becoming new citizens.
Mm-hmm.
The gal from Somalia,
Mm-hmm.
the gentleman from Uganda. There's someone else from Syria I met briefly, and it's connecting with them. I've been working with the Refugee Dream Center out of Providence, and they've been phenomenal.
So do you think that it's that connection that feeds your art?
Well, for the time being,
Mm-hmm.
and for the foreseeable future.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I said to you earlier, and you've seen portfolios or books, projects.
Mm-hmm.
So I get involved in that kind of building of a project and seeing it to some kind of fruition. And there's no time frame per se, like, oh, I've got this starting point and I can see this end. So the production of it will be kind of ongoing until a certain point in time where I think, oh, I can put together, a book idea.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean I'm going to get a commercial publisher to pick it up. That doesn't matter.
But it motivates you.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas I don't care at all.
Yeah.
I just make stuff, and sometimes it just sits around.
Yeah.
But it makes me happy.
Yeah. No, I've been fortunate to have some commercial publications, but I also have some artist books that I did 20 or 30 copies.
Mm-hmm.
They might be in some collections, and a few individuals have them, but there are a few things on the shelf that'll just remain in the archive. The Simply Human thing, the subtitle of that too is The Unlearning of a White Privileged Male.
Mm-hmm.
That's me, the WPM. And so I've started to really look at my own life, at the conditioning, the prejudices that were ingrained upon me through, the neighborhood I grew up in, the family I grew up in. And so to re-educate, but what I like to call unlearn some of those things,
Mm-hmm.
and to incorporate that side of it into, this is the writing piece of it, my own writing, that side of it into accompanying the photographs. So it makes me less of an observer
Mm-hmm.
to these communities, BIPOC, the immigrants, the disabilities people, queer community, and so on.
So do you think that this work has made you a more empathetic person?
Sure. I would. One of the lessons from my family that was a very positive lesson was about compassion and empathy,
Mm-hmm.
and being able to help others when possible. I used to watch my father during the Vietnam War help young guys get into the Air National Guard so that they didn't have to get drafted into and end up in Southeast Asia.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a great example for me too, and how he just did it because he believed in it and he wanted to help. And I know that he did a lot of other stuff along those lines too. But I've cultivated, nurtured best I could that sense of social concern and helping. And I like to think that on some level my photography is going to help and
Mm-hmm.
contribute, even after I'm gone. I'm pleased that a lot of the photographs are in some public collections, museums and things, and they'll remain there. I'm trying to figure out what will become of the archive, or sections or pieces of the archive. So that's something I'm going to be thinking a lot more as I'm now in my 7th decade.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm gonna like sway way off of what we're talking about.
All right.
And just ask, why do you think it's important for you and so many other artists that I know to have your studio? What does that mean? And what does that do for you?
It's my sense of place.
Mm-hmm.
I love the home that we have together, and we share.
Mm-hmm.
But as you know, 7 days a week, I travel a mile and a half downtown Bristol, and I come into this space and I have my private creative time.
Mm-hmm.
So the studio has always been the physical space where I really can be freely creative. And the photography is the mainstay.
Mm-hmm.
But as you know, and I haven't shared a lot of it with the world, but my collages, my painting,
Yep.
it's also something that I do. I picked it up years ago in Italy, waiting for the film to dry, which is boring. No, who cares about film? I mean, yeah, I care about it, but once it's done, I mean, the different primitive conditions of drying film sometimes I could elaborate on, but no, it's like, so I like to stay active.
Mm-hmm.
And
so this space helps you
oh yeah,
stay in that.
yeah, and it
That's
also, the shelves are full with projects, previous work, a lot of it Italian based from different themes, whether angels or carnivale, or some of the other things I've done with different communities, and we photographed together, we've shared that, but I do like to bring it together and kind of make it into kind of call it the project thing, and ultimately piece together work from Venice, work from Rome. I still have a larger project I like to do about Italy itself regarding color. And I kind of started with that in 2008.
That's right.
And then went off in different directions, and I still would like to come back to that. But what about yourself? I mean, what's your fascination with photographs? I've always really marveled at your ability to engage people, especially young people that I've had the opportunity, but I kind of totally shy away from. And call it a commercial thing, but we've also photographed young people outside of the environs of the studio.
I'm just completely comfortable behind a camera, photographing people. I have the ability to wade into crowds and just make sense of it all. And, I don't do events anymore. It's just not something that I want to be involved in. But I've still done a lot of portraits of young people, especially this last year, and families. And it's something that I really love. And I feel like I have a gift that I can evoke a response and a happiness.
You do. You have that gift.
My work is all about it's been about making people happy. Making a wonderful, wonderful portrait for someone makes them so happy that they can walk away and look at it and say, "Oh, I really like that."
Yeah, I mean, that brings to mind the challenge, commercially especially, but even in the fine art realm, when you share your work with people, we're always dealing with, vanities of folks.
Always.
And sometimes we think, oh, we got this, it really looks good.
And sometimes people go, I don't like that.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
So.
That may be why I photograph ducks and birds and dogs and
they never complain.
Grass.
They never complain, do they?
They don't complain. Right. They don't.
Well, where do we go from here? After you and I have, more than 4 decades together.
We just keep
life,
at it.
Life and love and creative work.
I feel like we just do what we love to do and enjoy every minute of it. And maybe share some of it.
Well,
I'm happy to share it with you.
It's interesting because some artists are very public, whether they're highly successful or not is another situation. But sharing the work in exhibition form or publication is one thing, and I do that. And you've done it a little bit. I've tried to, maybe encourage you, push you along a little bit in that direction, but you will only do what you want to do, as it should be. But I admire the people who work close to home, and whether the work itself never leaves the closet, so to speak, their confines of their own. It's no less important. It's all important. We talked a little bit about this recently too, about the creative life. It's something that we all aspire to. We have to have a creative life to keep us interested. And it doesn't mean we're going to put out necessarily tangibles that will end up on walls or in boxes on shelves or whatever, but or pages of a book. But the creative life is important for all of us.
And it's gratifying.
Yeah, and what I dislike too sometimes is the idea of a hierarchy of the fine art and how it reaches people, and yeah, that's great that it does in fact reach people. It at times upsets people with whatever that statement is, but it's important that everyone establish their own personal, call it the aesthetic of their creative life, and pursue it. I mean, I know people do it with culinary foods and stuff, and it's marvelous. You know, this morning we went to a farmer's market, and I marvel just at the way that people put out all the various breads.
The display was beautiful.
Display,
It was
you know?
it was an art in and of itself.
You know, and it's got to be something that attracts them and it will attract others, an enticement. And sure, they're there to, well, sell the bread or whatever, but they're beautiful objects in themselves and they have a purpose.
And you think that we all have a creative
We
soul.
We all do. I think all human beings have that facility within it. Accessing it, utilizing it, it's up to the individual. And I know we do. I know we do. Yeah. No, we're
Here's to creativity.
Yeah, creativity and being soulmates.
And being soulmates.
Thank you. Thank you for the journey.
Thank you.
Joining me on the journey.
I had no choice.